Okay, good afternoon. You're all doing well. Mazel tov to the chins. Hirsch Reina, Michael, and Tova Pearl. Pearl. So says the Gemara, we are on the bottom of Kuf Tes Vav Amud Aleph at a new Mishnah, and we're going to be speaking about the isser of overtaking in regards to collateral. So let's say that you've lent me money, but I want to create a guarantee that you're going to get paid back. If you take certain things of mine, you're going to be in violation of halacha. So the Mishnah says 7 lines from the bottom of Kuf Tes Vav Amud Aleph. Over mishum lo sase. If I were to take your ground, your mill that you use to grind things, so you're going to be in violation of a lo sase. Mishum shnei kelim, and a separate isser for each of the kelim. It's a 2-part device, top and bottom. Shenemar lo yachbol rechaim v'rechev, and below rechaim v'rechev bilvad amru. It's not only these 2 things. Ella kol davar she'osim bo ochel nefesh shene'emar ki nefeshu chovel. If you take anything from someone that is meant for food, that is going to be problematic. We'll stop for kedusha and then we'll jump right back here. So we're broadening the din of something that's usher to be used, not just rechaim because that specific product is used, but anything that is going to be used for the sake of ochel nefesh. You cannot use that as collateral. It's usher. It's an isser d'oraisa. Yeah. We're on Kuf Tes Vav Amud Aleph at the Mishnah at the bottom. Just finished the Mishnah. Okay, so here we actually have a fascinating machlokes amoraim, and it's possibly connected to another machlokes amoraim. 5 lines from the bottom, 4 lines. Amar Rav Huna, Chaval Rechaim Lokesh Shtayim. If I take the Rechaim, then I have 2 isurim. Mishum Rechaim, number 1 because I took the Rechaim, and number 2 Mishum Ki Nefeshu Chovel. 2 different levels of isurim. Rechaim v'rechev, if I take the upper and lower portions of the rechev, of the rechaim, so then lokesh shalosh. Number 1, mishum rechaim. Number 2, v'rechev. Number 3, umishum ki nefesh hu chovel. So says the Gemara, that's Shitas Rav Huna, that we have specific isurim for the items, and then a broader isur that is kind of alav shebechlalos. We're going to get into this a little bit today, and that's what the Gemara says, that according to Rav Huna, we could have 3 isurim even if you only take 2 items. Rabbi Yehuda is not having it. Rabbi Yehuda Amar no. Chaval rechaim lo ke'achas, v'rechev lo ke'achas, rechaim v'rechev lo ke'shtayim. What about the 3rd isser? The one that Rav Huna said was shaykh, the pasuk of ki nefeshu chovel. So that, as we turn to the top of Kuf Tes Vav Amud Beis, that Rabbi Yehuda explains away by saying that's l'shar dvarim huda asa. It's not coming to teach me a 3rd branching isser or umbrella isser. We don't need that anymore. It's for other things. Says Rashi at the top of the page, Dibur HaMaschil, l'shar dvarim, v'lav le'osufei lav arechaim v'rechev. It's not to add another isser on the fact that you've already taken both parts of the mill, the harechaim v'rechev ksiv v'reisha v'yitzrech ki nefesh l'rabo she'ar kelim shalochol nefesh. We need that pasuk to teach me that there's a broader group of things that are ochel nefesh. It's not just the rechaim. It's the forks and the knives and the spoons and anything else that you're going to use. The chicken soup pot, all of those are going to be usher to take as collateral and a loan. Oh, so we have this machlokas. Do we include the broad umbrella isser? Yes or no? Machlokas between Rav Huna and Rabbi Yehuda. Says the Gemara, Lema Abaye v'Rava beplugta de Rav Huna, Rabbi Yehuda kimiflige. Maybe the following machlokas Abaye and Rava is tied in directly, and maybe they're l'shitasam. Everybody aligns beautifully. The machlokas we're about to see between Abaye and Rava, and what we just saw with Rav Huna and Rabbi Yehuda. Rav Huna said, yes, we have the umbrella isser. Rabbi Yehuda said, no. Let's see the machlokas Abaye Rava. 3rd line. To Amar Rava. We know that by the Korban Pesach, achal na, if you eat it uncooked or only partially cooked, so then lokesh tayim, you get 2 isurim. What are the 2 isurim? Mishum na, you ate it, that it was partially uncooked. Umishum ki im tzli that you had to eat it roasted. What? Yeah, because you got 2 things wrong. And what if you ate it mevushal? Mevushal means we cooked it in a liquid medium, which is not the way to eat the Korban Pesach. That's not allowed. Mevushal, your lokesh tayim as well, but partially for mevushal. Mishum mevushal, which is usher. Umishum ki'im tzli. We can already see that this approach of Rava has the umbrella isser of ki'im tzli. Then says the Gemara, na umevushal. Let's say that it was only partially cooked, and it was mevushal as opposed to tzli. So then you have 2 things going on. Lokesh shalosh. What are the 3? Mishum na, umishum mevushal, umishum lo sochlenu ki'im tzli. We can see very clear as day that Rava is holding that there is that broad isser that applies beyond the isolated isurim. We have the narrow, granular micro isurim, and then we have this broad umbrella that kind of becomes the 3rd. It's a 3x. So you eat this food that's not in mevushal, triple isser d'oraisa. So says Rava. Abaye says, what are you talking about? Abaye Amar ein loken alav shebechlavos. No deal. You can't have the umbrella isser over here because when we have a lav shebechlavos, when we have a lav that's broad, an umbrella, there's no malchus there. So what do we see? Lema Abaye de Amar Rav Yehuda. Maybe Abaye, who says that there's no lav shebechlavos. Maybe he holds like Rav Yehuda, who holds that there's no umbrella when it comes to our case of the rechaim and the rechev. And similarly, the Rava de Amar Rav Huna. And perhaps Rava, who over here says that there is a triple isser, that we do have the umbrella. He says like Rav Huna, who by us said that if you take the rechev and the rechaim, there's a triple isser, including the umbrella. Beautiful alignment. So says the Gemara. Omar loch Rava, no. Ana de Amre afilu Rav Yehuda. I don't see this machlokes as exactly the same. Amen. Hey Shmei Rabbam Vorach Lolam Golmel Ad kan lo ka'amar Rabbi Yehuda hasam ela b'chi nefesh hu chovel lo mashma rechaim v'rechev. Over there, Rava says that there's 3 isurim because it sounds like there's a third thing going on because the pasuk isn't speaking specifically about rechaim v'rechev. It's ki nefeshu. But hilkach lishar dvarim hu da'asa. It can apply to other things. Aval hacha, in our case that we're discussing over here. Sorry, I lost my spot. Aval hacha ki'im sli'esh lemay asa. What does the pasuk of ki'im sli'esh do? There's no value in it other than the fact that it should teach me the third isser shma mina lelav. So Rava says I could live in both worlds. I could dance at both weddings. I'm good. This is not a party line. And says the Gemara ve'abaye omar lach ana damre afilu l'Rav Huna. He says no. Neither of them agree. Just historically, Abaye and Rava were after Rav Huna and Rabbi Yehuda, so they were able to look back and say, "This is not shaykh." You guys thought, no, we're not aligned to that machlokes from 100 years ago. Ad kan lo kam Rav Huna hasam on the very bottom of Kuftes Vav Medbeis ela dechi nefesh hu chovel yiserahu. The pasuk there is a little bit extra. That's why Rav Huna over there said that there's a triple isser. Amen. Hey Shemei Rabbam Vorach Leolam U'Olamei Lemayot. Since the pasuk was extra, we added the third isser to the existing isurim by rechaim and rechev. That if you take those as collateral, because they're ochel nefesh, that's aser, that's not allowed. Aval hacha over here by the discussion of Korban Pesach says the Gemara, ki'im tzli'esh lav yiserahu. The pasuk of tzli'esh is not extra. We have a brisa that speaks about this pasuk of ki'im tzli'esh. B'shashi yeshno bekum echol tzli, yeshno beval tochal no. When we have a need for the halacha of tzli, then we have an application of the rule of no. When does this apply? When we're supposed to eat our korban pesach on Pesach. But says the Gemara, b'shashi eino bekum echol tzli. At a time when I don't need it to actually be tzli, eino beval tochal no. When is this? After the korban pesach was brought, but before Pesach starts. In that narrow window, if you eat it at that point, you haven't violated anything. You're not supposed to eat them, but you haven't violated anything because it's not the Korban Pesach. Korban Pesach is not shaykh by Erev Pesach, it's shaykh on Pesach.
But do you ruin it?
You ruin it by eating it, but you're not over. You're not over. You don't violate any Isser. So the Gemara says what the pasuk teaches us is that there's no Isser of na, of partially cooked, before Pesach, after the Korban was already prepared. Fascinating subtlety in halach. And Tanya Kavasid Rabbi Yehuda. The Gemara says we seem to have a shita like Rabbi Yehuda. Let's remember that on the bottom of Kuftas Vav Meral from the Machlokas, Rav Huna and Rabbi Yehuda was the one who said that there's only 2 isurim, so no umbrella. Okay, so let's see this in the Brisa. Tanya Kavasid Rabbi Yehuda. Chava, let's say that what I took as collateral was zug shel saparim, a pair of scissors, right? Our scissors are typically connected. But old scissors, and by the way, the chicken shears now in our kitchens, they separate to stick in the washing machine, right? So that's what they had. They were separated. Each one on their own could do something, but they weren't scissors. So it says the Gemara, if you take a zug shel saparim, or vitzemed shel paros, or multiple paros in a row, chayiv shtayim. Not allowed to do that. Zebe atzmo v'zebe atzmo. You take either one zug or one of the paros. Eno chayiv ala achas. The Tanya Yidach, another brisa. Chava, let's say you took zug shel tzaparim or betzemen shel paros. Yachol lo yechayv ala achas. Hamlamer lo yechlo rechaim v'rechev. Ma rechaim v'rechev shem yuchadim shnei kelim. That these are really 2 kelim rechaim v'rechev. V'osem lacha achas. but really the two of them together, they do one function, which is to grind something. Each one is their own iser. Each one on their own is going to be an iser deraisa. We're not posting, but if we were, we would say we hold like Rabbi Huda from the Gemara, that there is no broad umbrella. If I were as a, let's say that, again, let's talk about the loan case, right? So I lent money to Michael. I want to guarantee Michael is going to pay me back. If I go into his house and take his scissors, it's 2 Isser Deraisa. If I undo the shears and take one, it's 1 Isser Deraisa. But there's no broad umbrella of Isser. That's how we seemingly would pass it. And the Gemara tells a little bit of a story where a little almost halfway down, Kuftes Zayin Amud Beis, careening to the end of the parak, Baruch Hashem, and then we're going to start the final parak of the Masechta. Hahu Gavra, there was a man, and the man had lent someone money, but he wanted to guarantee his loan. And the guy who he had lent money to was a shochet. So the guy had a very expensive shechita knife. The Gemara says, the Chaval, what did he take? Sakina de ashkafta mechaber. He took a shechita knife from his friend. Asa lakame de Abai. He went to Abai, and Omar le Abai said to this guy, Zila hadre, you got to give it back. Why? Dahava leklisha os mochel nefesh. That's our Mishnah. You're not allowed to do that. Oh, you're upset you want your money back? Fine. V'ta kum bedina Allah. Go to Besdin. You can't violate Allah to create a collateral. No, you can't do that. You got to go to the CRC, go to the Aguda, but don't take the guy's shechita knife. That's his ochel nefesh. You're not allowed to do that. Rava Omar, lo tzarech lemekam bedina Allah. You don't need to go to Bezdin. The yochel liton ad kedei dmein. You can hold the knife. You can hold the knife, and you can hold it until the point that you can collect the value of the knife. Let's say the value of the knife is $100, but really I lent Michael $500. I can collect 100 from that knife. Can't collect more. He still owes me the money. But that's what Rava says, that you don't have to give it back. Why don't you agree with Rava that you can hold on to the knife? After all, Maishna, from the following story, Maishna mehanhu ize, there were goats. They were eating pearled barley, so barley that already was outside of its little peel. And ve'asa mara dechushla, the guy who owned the barley was upset. What are you doing? Your animals are eating my barley. So what did he do? He took my goats. The tafas la lehu the katayin tuva, and he took the animals. He locked them up in a pen and said, "Your animals ate like a bunch of behemagasas, and they ate all of my food." Oh, it's kashan Abaye. Abaye said, "You got to give back the knife." Rava said, "You can hold on to the knife." Kashan Abaye, because we see right here that you were able to do that with the case of the Ize, with the goats. So it says the Gemara, there's a difference between the goats and between the knife, between the butcher's knife. Why? 2/3 of the way down, a little bit more, 3/4 of the way down, 10 lines from the bottom. By the case of the goats, by the Ize, where they ate the barley, that's lav midi de avda le'oshule ule'ogurehu. That's not the kind of thing that's lent out. It's not the kind of thing that's rented out. Nobody rents goats, except for Mark Halpert on Purim. Nobody else that I know has ever rented a goat. Okay, but there were goats there.
I know, but there probably know other people that rent goats.
No, I don't.
I don't want to publicly say that, man.
It says the Gemara, by goats, minus some present company, by goats, nobody rents goats. But hacha, when it comes to a butcher's knife, then midi de avid le'oshuli ula agurehu. Someone could come over to my house and say, "Do you have that really awesome knife? You know, the Cutco, or the one that Ari gives me, because that's the one that I always use to cut meat. They're amazing."
You get an orange?
So what?
You get an orange one?
No, I don't. I am not part of Monarch yet. I'm waiting. I want to be the Moel on staff. You gotta just bring me out.
It's on our website.
If you have a yid who needs that toughest numbers, you'll bring me in. It'll be
I'll send
amazing.
this link to them.
Absolutely. See if they like this shiur.
It was recorded.
That was recorded. So a plug for Monarch. What's it called? Healthcare? I don't even know what it's called anymore.
You should learn your payroll company.
Probably. That's true. I haven't gotten a paycheck yet. Michael, tap on the table every once in a while. Says the Gemara, hacha, by the case of the knife, that's not true. That's midi de avid le'oshuli ogurihu. So Abaye has a beautiful chiluk. He says it's not true. By the knife, it's not the same case. Knives are normal to lend out. They're normal to rent out. But that's not true by the case of Ize. And that chakira makes it very different for Abaye. What's Abaye's raya? The shalach Rav Huna bar Oven, he said the following principle. Rav Huna bar Oven said, when there is something that is typical to lend out or to rent out, the Omar and the guy who's holding it says, he makes a taina that it's mine. That taina is einoneman. The fact that it's typical to lend out means you have no taina. So according to Abaye, Rava has no svara. Rava said, hold on to the knife, you can collect with it. Abaye says, no, you can't collect anything with it. You're no neman because of Rav Huna bar Avin, who said that there's no such rule. So Abaye is kaftor v'ferach. We understand his shita beautifully. The Rava less l'hai svara. What about the case we just saw from Rav Huna bar Avin, who said that something that is typical to be mashil, that it's eno neman? Says the Gemara, after all, v'harava apik zuga de sarbala. He took the knife that was used for cutting wool, this sifra de agadata, and he took books that had agadata in it, Gemara's, midrashim. It's a little hard to know because very little was written down in this period of history. Very, very little. Rava lived about 150 years approximately after Rebbe, maybe 200 years. God, the only thing that was written down was Mishnayos and Toseftas. So I don't know what sefer they were picking up. This would be a fun research project for anybody who has one. I don't know what the book was, but anyways,
job.
Oh yeah,
Be the research man.
do the research. Yeah, that would be great.
Prices they had. Oh,
Yes, but Bryces were not Masudar in a book.
Right.
But this
This
says
is
that
a
he
book.
borrowed a sefer.
Right.
It was Sifra de Agadata. So there's 4 categories of Tanaim. There's Brisa, Mishnah, Tosefta, and Midrashei Chazal. It could be that it's Midrashei Chazal. It's definitely not Brisas. Even now we don't have Brisas in one book.
Right.
All the Brisas are scattered throughout Shas. So that's what the Gemara says. Anyways, these are things that he was apik. He took them out from Miyasme. He took them out, and they were bidvarim ho'asuyin lahashil ulahaskir. So Rava has to agree with this principle. Says the Gemara, Amar lach Rava, hai nami. By the knife, he disagrees with Rava fundamentally in another area. He disagrees about the knife itself. Why? Hai nami, kevan, it should be demifkama. Kevan demifkama, because knives, especially their blades, could chip very easily. I have a Cutco, a long smooth blade, it's chipped. And it's 2024. The knives back then were mamish paper thin. Their metal wasn't hardened. It wasn't a good metal at all. So when someone would lend out a knife, that would be a big problem. And we were concerned about that. They were kapti inshi, below motion, that people would not lend them out because they wouldn't lend them out according to Rava. Therefore, he had a taina to say, give me all the money. This functions as a collateral because it isn't like the knife. Abaye says people lend out knives. Rava says they don't. That ends up being how they explain themselves. Hadran alacha mekabel baruch Hashem. We finished the 9th parak of Bava Metzia. Ratzon, we should come back to this daf in 7.5 years.
The base of understanding.
Amen. That should come back much sooner. New parak. New parak and the last parak. We're going to learn tomorrow night and Tuesday night. We're going to finish the Maseches Tuesday night. No shiur Wednesday night. Tuesday nights are siyum. Everybody give me money so I could buy food. Mark, you want to arrange the food? Nope. Okay, fine. For the siyum?
Yeah.
Terrible person. Says the new Mishnah, top of Kufteh Zayin and Beis. Habayis v'ha'aliyah. Oh, relax. Habayis v'ha'aliyah. I share an apartment building. You know the 2 flats on like Sacramento? I live on the top, you live in the bottom. So it says the Gemara, Shel Shnaim and Shenachu, the building fell down. So here's the din. Everyone was okay, Baruch Hashem. Shneim Cholkin, the 2 owners, the second floor and the bottom floor, they split the eitzim uve'avanim uve'afar. All of the wood, all of the stones, and all of the dirt. And then Viroin Elu Avanim Ha'asiyos Lihishtaber. They look at which ones were typical to break. We'll see what that means in the Gemara. Let's say that some of them have my last name on them because I don't want you to take my stuff. I know that those are mine. So Notlan, I'm allowed to take them. I'm allowed to take those and say they're definitely not yours. They have my name on them or they're the color of my walls. However, v'olos lo min ha'cheshbon. Remember we said yachloku at the top of the Mishnah that cholkin. So whatever your 50% is, if you recognize one of the rocks, it reduces so you're going to end up being 50-50, but you just earmarked some of your 50-50 because it has your name on it. Why?
I wouldn't keep what you own.
You definitely own it. Pasha, you own it. But there's no way you own more than 50% because the building is still the building. Now, it says the Gemara, Midikatani Roin, Michlal, because we say we can look at what happened, says the Gemara, Michlal, Deika Lemeka Malayhu, that we can establish how the building fell. 5-6 lines down, Kufteh Zayin Beis. Do we say that it fell, Ibechav Sanofil, it fell just because of natural causes, Ibechav Ta Nofil, or did something happen? The first one is if Ibechav said that the building was flawed, which means that the bottom bricks were probably to blame. That's why the building fell. And Ibechavta, a little bit of a dance party on the second floor, and that's what caused the problem, not the bottom bricks, and therefore the top bricks are the ones that are broken. And says the Gemara, Hachi, if that's true, that we can identify how the building fell, either we could blame the bottom apartment because the rocks were brittle, or we could blame the top apartment because he was acting like a nut and knocked the building down. Yachi, Resha, my cholkin. Why are we being, what's with the 50-50, Sherry, everybody happy? No, not 50-50, everybody happy. You broke my building. Why are we being cholkin? Says the Gemara, well, Nechse, what we should do is and therefore aliyasa ispor. If it fell because the guy on the second floor was problematic, then he's the one who's responsible. And ibechavsa, if it fell because of, let's say, natural causes or because of the bottom bricks, nafil, then tatyasa ispor. Then the bottom guy is achroi. What's with the cholkin in the Mishnah? That's not even mistaber. Why would we say that? Says the Gemara, lo tzricha denafil belelio. You would be right. If we could identify, we would identify that the bottom guy or the top guy is guilty. We would. But here says the Gemara, it fell at night. Okay. When you wake up in the morning, go look at the bricks that were on the bottom and see if they're cracked. What's the problem? Why are we doing cholken? Says the Gemara, they already cleaned it up. Go find the guy who cleaned it up and ask him, were the bricks on the bottom broken or were the bricks from the top broken? No, just some nice bystanders. They cleaned up. They don't like a mess. And they cleaned it up and we don't know who it was. Okay, so then suggest the Gemara still one more. Let's see where they fell. If it fell on the Rishus of person one, which is, I made it as an up-down relationship building. That's how it is. I don't know what Rishus means over here. Maybe it's his parking spot. Got to find a place that's earmarked for him, whatever it is. And the other guy, like we would typically say throughout Shas. Says the Gemara, lo tzricha, the ukimta that we have over here, third of the way down, heading to the Mishnah, and then we'll stop. Lo tzricha the yasvan bechatzer de tarvahu. Either answer number one is we could say that all the pieces fell in a field that was co-owned, inami birshus harabim, or the ibais ema shutvin b'chihai gavna lo kapri ahadade. Partners, they don't care how the chips fall when the building falls. They're both upset. They both want the building back to their cholkin. But Lamaisa, this is all nukimta. You're right. If we could have determined that the bottom bricks were faulty, we would have held the guy in the bottom apartment liable. And if we could determine the top one, we would have held him liable. It's not always cholkin. It's only cholkin when we don't know. Nowadays, we would know. We have cameras, we have witnesses, everybody's got cell phones. We would know. We would be able to figure it out. Okay, so we're at the two dots now. So let's say I go over to that brick. I say, that brick over there, the one that's in really good shape, that's mine. So says the Gemara, that's great, but what is my partner in crime? What is my neighbor saying about that? That's what the Gemara wants to know. If I say the brick is mine, what does the other guy say? If the guy's like, yeah, that's yours, then thank you very much, but I don't need a Mishnah for that. Pshita. And if the guy didn't say, yes, I agree, then why do I have a right to take it? Lama notel. Why is my claim any better than your claim? Says the Gemara, because it's a bari v'shema. My claim was real. Your claim was Eini Yodea. Ela de Omar le. I said to Michael, this brick is mine. Michael looks at me and says, Eini Yodea. Bari v'shema, bari adiv. And therefore my taina wins. Says the Gemara, a third of the way down, Lema tehave tiyuvta de Rav Nachman. Perhaps we should say that this Gemara right here disproves the sheet of Rav Nachman. What did Rav Nachman say? Elsewhere, we've seen this before. Earlier in this Masechta, we started in this Masechta and Bava Kama, all over the place. To Itmar, Monali biyadcha, you owe me $100. Hala Omer Eini Yodea, Machlokes Amoraim. Rav Huna Rav Yehuda Amar Amrei Chayev. They say that the person is Chayev, Bar V'Shema Bari Adi. Rav Nachman v'Rav Yochanan Amrei Potter. They say that you're Potter. But wait 1 second. Our Mishnah, we were just Okim, our Mishnah, that with the claim that I said to Michael that it's mine, and he said Eini Yodea, Chayev said it's mine. So Rav Huna's got to be wrong.
It's not on his rishus. It's both their rishus.
We are, but we said that they're not makbid. So there was no hamotzi mechavero of Arai in this case. Just two tainas. So I say that brick, which none of us are makbid on, I own that brick. He says Eini Yodea.
Right.
So if we say that it's taka true that I can keep it, that's a stira to Rav Nachman. That's what the Gemara wants to know. Says the Gemara, Kedama Rav Nachman, he gave an answer. Don't worry, Rav Nachman can wriggle out of this. Halfway down. Kigon sheyesh asek shvua beinehen. There is an asek shvua. We don't know what this is yet. Hachanami kigon sheyesh asek shvua beinehen. Ask the Gemara. Hey chidami asek shvua. What is this case? Kidarava. We'll learn about an asek shvua, a dealing that deals with a shvua. We'll learn about this from Rava. Amar Rava, monali biyadcha. You owe me $100. Allah Amar ein lecha biyadi ala chamishim. V'ashar eini yodea. So I'm a shtickle mode b'mixas, but I'm also kofar on the rest. That's actually not correct. One is mode, and the other is Eini Yodea. That our case is a little bit different. Rav Nachman is able to say that it's a case of Asek Shavua, and our case that we were just okim, that when I say to Michael, the brick is mine, he says, Any Odeh, that's not a stira against Rav Nachman. Last little shtickle for tonight. This is actually difficult and requires Rashi's, which we're not going to do, but you can look at them later. We said that if I take that brick, it deducts from what I'm supposed to collect. 50-50. Let's say that there's 10 bricks. I identify one of those 10 bricks, then I only get 4 more. I only get up to 50%. That only counts as one of his shvuros. Alma, Kevan de Omar, since the other guy said Eni Yodea, that's Reya Tfei. That because I collected 1 brick and then the remainder were shvuros, that means he gets an extra shvura, which is not good. Omar Le'abai Adarabba, Ha Reya Tfei, because Midahani Yodei, Tfei Lo Yoda. If I only know about the ones that I know, then I don't know about the others, then I get no others. If I only recognize 3, I keep 3. So Abaye says, I disagree with you. Su, Lesla, he gets nothing else. Everything else is kept by Michael in that case. If I recognize 3, then I only get to keep 3. Everything else by me is a suffix. Then the Gemara says, El Amar Abaye, therefore he disagrees with this approach of Rava to say that it's cheshbon shvuros. Says the Gemara, Amar Abaye, El Amar Abaye, lefi cheshbon shlemos. Really it's talking about cheshbon shlemos. And Rashi says, Afu yitol shlemos kenegdan. And then he will take his portion of the shlemos. So if I see 1 whole one, he takes 4 more whole ones. Well, what does that mean? It means that it's cholken. It means it's exactly the same. That's what the Gemara asks. Ihachi, my kamahani le. Cares that you tying it on the brick that you found? So what? It ended up playing out the same exact way. I get half, you get half. It's the same thing. Says the Gemara. Well, it depends on the quality of the brick. Limalab no ravcha. You have a very large, beautiful brick, whatever the case may be. Inami tina demabda. Or you have a brick that's made out of a really high level of concrete. It's a better zach. It's a chashiv brick, and therefore you get to keep it. We'll stop right here. Wishing you all a beautiful afternoon and a mazel tov.